Madam Chair, I also want to thank you and the ranking member for this hearing on this really important project. I'm sitting here thinking about politics and partisanship. This is probably the most conservative bill before the Congress in every sense of the word. Conservative because we're literally conserving. We're protecting something that has been handed to us by our forefathers and mothers and predecessors. But it's also conservative because it's all about paying down debt. It hasn't been mentioned so far today, but deferred maintenance is debt, just like it's debt on the balance sheet. And I think once it's looked at that way, it eases, it seems to me, some concerns that have been expressed about this bill. We're not adding to debt, we're actually diminishing our national debt because these problems will have to be taken care of someday. And when they are, it'll be more expensive. So there's interest on the debt. So I think that's why this is so important, and I'm so glad to see that there's bipartisan support for these various bills. Number two, one of the reasons this is urgent for me is I did a little calculation. I looked at the top 10 visited national parks, the most visited national parks, the top 10, and their acreage. And it's a very interesting calculation of visitors per acre. And that is a proxy for pressure on the park. And really interesting. Great Smoky Mountains, most visited national park in the country, which was a little surprising to me by a factor of 2, 21 people per acre, 21 visitors per acre. Zion, 29. More typically, Yosemite, 5.3, Yellowstone, 1.8. Acadia National Park in Maine, 74 people per acre. In some cases, 10 or 20 times the visitation. So that's why this is an urgent problem for me, because our park is being loved to death. It's an absolutely wonderful place, and that's why all those people go there, 3.5 million people a year to one park in one state that has a population of 1.3 million. So almost 3 times the population of Maine goes to Acadia National Park every year. So this is an urgent priority, both in terms of our responsibility to our predecessors, but also our responsibility to the people of America that enjoy these wonderful places. This has been a great hearing because it's been exactly what a hearing's supposed to do, some good ideas. I love the matching idea. I'm an original co-sponsor, as you know, of the Restore Our Parks Act. We have a program in Maine called the Land for Maine's Future program. It goes back to the 80s. And the first bond issue was $35 million. We spent 30 or 28 million buying the fee on just putting in dollars and buying it. The next 7 preserved more land than the first 30 because we finally figured out about matching and conservation easements and other things than just simply buying the fee. I think matching is a terrific idea. There is, as you've testified, there's a philanthropic community that's very interested in this, and we can basically make our money go further. And I think that's a very important concept. Public-private partnerships, again, make our money go further. Volunteers, people that want to spend a summer in the national park, give them free accommodations in exchange for working 5 hours a day on trails. I mean, there are no end of opportunities here. And Ms. Wall, I like your idea about fix the fee generating places first. If you've got places that are generating fees and they're not operating, fix those first, because then you get some additional revenue. So far, if you can find a question, you're welcome to it. I haven't gotten to a question yet, but your testimony has been so helpful and succinct, and I do believe that we have to talk broadly about the Forest Service and Bureau of Public Lands, but I don't want to lose the focus on the national parks. I don't want the best to be the enemy of the good. We've got a very solid bill with a lot of support in both the House and the Senate from the administration, and I understand, Madam Chair, we're looking forward to a possible markup on the Restore Our Parks Act in the foreseeable future. That's a pretty indefinite term. That was indefinite enough to get a nod from you. I appreciate that. But I think what we're talking about here today is so important to the American people. And Mr. Pusker, perhaps you can touch on the idea of matching and other ways to make our money go further.
Well, I think especially when we talk about Acadia, a park founded on private citizens coming together to give of their land to even create this in the first place.
It helps when
has
one of
that
the private citizens is named Rockefeller, but we won't go into that.
But you're absolutely right, but a lot of them aren't named that. The number of people supporting the Friends of Acadia these days is astronomical, and it's not just the Rockefellers. God love them. Thank God they were here for us when they were. But it's the folks that want to say, hey, I want to be here. I want to give my entrance fee money, but then I want to do a little bit more. I'm going to become a member of the Friends of Acadia. The opportunity for matching, I do think it is absolutely essential. We know that there is a philanthropic component to being interested in our public lands writ large. We know this. But incentivizing it, especially when the challenge is so big and when we know we have a model that already works, seems to be a no-brainer for ensuring we move forward productively, not just for the Park Service, but it's certainly been a dream of mine. Wouldn't it be amazing if we took advantage of the amazing challenge cost share authorities that U.S. Forest Service, BLM, Fish and Wildlife Service already have, and provide more dedicated opportunities with that kind of framing like we've done with the Centennial Challenge?
Well, I intend to look into adding language to the Restore Our Park Act, additional authority. If you have thoughts, any of you have
We'd
thoughts
love to
on
work
how
with
to
you
do
on
that,
that.
please be in touch with my office. Thank you, Madam Chair.